Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and this is the Old Review Omnibus, Volume 17, the final episode. So this has been a cool series to do. I started in 2016. It was kind of just a way to make stuff because I did have a lot of reviews that were just kind of like sitting on hard drives, reviews from the rough cuts that no one was watching, that I was sort of proud of, and I wanted to make this series to kind of highlight them, and I knew because the rough cuts didn't tag things well, no one was going to be able to watch those anyway. So I wanted to bring those to here, to my channel, and I successfully did that. There's like maybe one review I didn't put on here because of clips. It got like basically blocked everywhere. My old review of Terminator 2. I want to sort of re-review Terminator 2 at some point. Maybe I'll put that up. But other than that, you're pretty much getting everything here. But it's been a cool series. It's been cool to look back at when I started, when I lived in a much different apartment. Even though this is a different apartment, I was shooting everything you've seen of mine from mid 2013 to now has been at one apartment. This is the new apartment, which I wanted to close this out at the old one, but it got a little crazy. So the theme of this one is kind of cult and animated movies, basically. More cult. These are all sort of cult films, and that's how we're gonna sort of close it out. I think I've done a cult one before, but this is the theme of this one because I tried to make them more themed. But if you want to watch any of the other 16 Old Review Omnibuses, or just see older reviews or different versions of reviews I did, or older, worser versions probably, then you can check all those out. They'll be on my channel forever. So all this stuff is back and highlighted and there for fans and all that stuff, and I'm happy to have all this out. But I will probably put out stuff that is much older. I have some footage that's never been cut and things like that, but you won't be seeing these Old Review Omnibuses anymore unless I like happen a treasure trove of older reviews somewhere or something like that. But if I do that, it probably will be a while. I can't think of anything that would be worth doing another one for a little bit. So I'm just saying this is the final one because I don't know how I would even make another one. Here are the cult movies in this Old Review Omnibus. I'm starting off with Breakin, which was sort of an influence on the first episode of Knock Force, believe it or not. It definitely was, especially with that whole rec center thing. After Breakin, I'm going to go right into Head, which was the Monkeys movie, which was the cult Monkeys movie. I think I reviewed it right around the time Davy Jones died, I believe. And has all these kind of various kind of cooler filters and so forth. It's kind of neat. After that is going to be a review of 9, which I didn't really like at the time, and I know most of you who are going to check this out will say I suck because I did that. But it was when I saw it in 2009. I don't think I got to see it on 9/9/9, but I saw it around then. It says I finished the review on the 12th. So I guess, that's, or date modified according to the file. After 9 is my review of Crimewave, which is an obscure kind of Sam Raimi film that is a rough cuts one. 9 was obviously from my first year of doing reviews. Crimewave was from later. After Crimewave is going to be my review of the Sweatbox, and I do have a different review of the Sweatbox that's better, but this one newer and better and so forth. I think I made in 2016 maybe. The one thing about the Sweatbox, this one, it kind of compares a lot to what Andrew Stanton did with John Carter, and I think that's sort of interesting. And then closing it out is actually a pretty good review to close it out on, is my review of Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, which is one of my favorite movies from that year, 2009, although I put out the review in 2010. I have reviews from 2009, 2010, 2011 with Breakin, and then Crimewave, Head, and Sweatbox are from 2012. Then I'd leave the rough cuts. 3 of them are rough cuts videos. 2 are from the first year of me doing reviews, so they're a little different and a much different apartment. But anyway, I will see you back at the end of this, and I hope you enjoyed kind of my old reviews in this omnibus. Hey, what's up, Rough Cuts? It's Jim. Today is Tuesday, and today's film is Breakin. A dancer named Kelly, who's a strong jazz dancer in a jazz dancing class, and she's got this creepy dance teacher who's really gross and creepy and kind of balding. She is introduced to the world of street dancing through her friend, who I forget his name, but I think she calls him Cupcake or something. There she meets Ozone and Turbo. This is a breakdancing movie. I think it was the first or one of the first. This and Beat Street. Although Beat Street may be a little better. Turbo and Ozone go to the club and they battle this team, Electric Rock. I always thought it was Electric Rot, which I think is a lot cooler of a name, but apparently it's Electric Rock. They, breakdance battle them, but then they have a girl with them. They're like, oh shit, what do we do? Luckily, they just met Kelly and decide to give her the street name Special K. They team together and defeat Electro-Rot, but also they have to defeat her dance teacher for some reason and prove to everyone breakdancing is like real dancing and they should respect hip-hop or something. I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I used to watch this. There was like this period in 2005. I would watch this a lot. I didn't own it. Someone I knew owned it. And we would get drunk and watch this movie, and I thought it was like really funny. You have Turbo and Ozone. I think they're actually really quality dancers. I mean, the guy who plays Turbo, the sequence he does with the broom is like kind of Fred Astaire worthy. I mean, not as good as Fred Astaire. This is as good as Fred Astaire, like Nolan. Everyone in this is a good dancer, and if you're seeing this for the dancing and for the nostalgia and the 80s-ness of it, and you like early hip-hop, it's a lot of fun. But if you're like most normal people, you're probably like Ice-T, who's in this movie. Like, he's the guy performing at the club when they do these breakdance showdowns. He says this movie is whack. Probably because, like, he later made Colors, and once you make Colors, you can't really go back to Breakin, I just don't get the whole thing with Kelly, with Special K, like somehow legitimize it because she's there. Like, they couldn't legitimize it without her, which I don't know how the racial implications of this movie I'm not exactly comfortable with. But I think if you made Breakin' now, you might not have Special K the way she was in this movie. I think what you would do is you would have her probably played by, I don't know, like Gabrielle Union or somebody. They wouldn't have a white girl playing her because it just gets like, it's kind of like The Help, but with breakdancing, It's like these guys would have just, been breakdancing on the street corner. They wouldn't know what to do with it, but then Special K and her agent comes along, who's played by Christopher McDonald, who does a really good job. He was in SLC Punk, the guy who's like, I didn't sell out, I bought in. I almost think of this movie as one movie and a half because the plot with Electro-Rock gets done within the first hour. Then they have this other half hour of plot with them trying to put on this breakdancing show, because I guess Kelly's agent only has like one thing to do. Like, that's his only client, I guess. But he has like all this nice crap, so wouldn't he like go like, yeah, who cares? I'm like, I've got Colin Hanks to deal with, or something. Jean-Claude Van Damme is in the background dancing, which is pretty humorous. You've probably seen the GIF somewhere. I don't recommend the sequel, Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's way worse. Just see the first Breakin'. You don't want to see the second one. It's funny to make Electric Boogaloo jokes, but it's funnier to make those jokes when you haven't seen it, trust me. Because once you've seen it, you're like, oh, why'd you bring that thing up? Now my day's ruined. Well, thank you very much, Rough Cuts, for letting me do yet another video, and I will be back next Tuesday. And remember to subscribe to my regular channel in the info box, as well as follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. Also follow Earlbear and Holloway's Tumblr. He's the guy who did the picture before and after the video. And thank you very much. Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for the Rough Cuts, and today I will be reviewing the film Head. Now, Head is, of course, the 1968 psychedelic comedy, which was the Monkees movie. I'm mainly reviewing this because Davy Jones died today, or at least the day that I'm filming this, and then I thought about how I used to actually watch Head a lot in high school. I saw it like every 6 months or something for like a couple of years, which is odd because it's like a really weird movie. This movie makes no sense. It's like gleefully plotless. There's various segments that kind of form somewhat of a story, I guess, if it's a story. The Monkees are in it playing the Monkees. They do have musical performances. I think someone's called up the most cohesive parts of the film, and that's probably true. It's just really weird and bizarre, and how it was written was the Monkees, Jack Nicholson, and Bob Rafelson all went on a trip to Luigi, California. They went to this resort. They all basically just smoked a lot of weed and had a tape recorder, and they came up with the film. They said they basically brainstormed into a tape recorder when they're all coming up with this. Then Jack Nicholson then took those tapes and took LSD and transcribed the script. I think I kind of just like how the monkeys looked at their image at a certain point and really started to deconstruct it and parody it. Every star is so protected, and none of them are like deep or cool enough to do something like Head now. And that's kind of one of the things I really like about Head, because it's like, it's so ballsy and risky, and like, of course, Monkeys fans who were like, you know, teenage girls didn't really want to see Head, and it's like completely out there. And actually it bombed, and it took years for people to really even appreciate it. I think it's actually pretty decent, and when you compare it to something like Magical Mystery Tour, I actually think as a film it's better than Magical Mystery Tour. Now, music-wise, obviously Magical Mystery Tour wins. It's a surreal kind of art film, but it has like a pretty decent budget, it looks like. You know, they're shooting on Hollywood sets. It's very stream of consciousness and very odd and very weird and very early 60s. Bob Rafelson, after this, he used the money from the Monkees to make Easy Rider. And Easy Rider and Head were apparently being made around the same time. Head, I believe, came out first, and then Easy Rider. He would go on to direct 5 Easy Pieces. This film has a lot of odd appearances. There's appearances by Terry Garr, Carol Doda, Annette Funicello. Frank Zappa shows up with a cow. He has like a cow for some reason on the studio lot. Sonny Liston, Timothy Carey from World's Greatest Sinner fame, Dennis Hopper, and Tony Basil. Yes, Tony Basil, you know, from Mickey. Oh, Mickey, you so fine. She was also an Easy Rider, so I guess she was down with these guys. I don't know. Which has like some anti-Vietnam undertones. Of course, you know, it's the late 60s. Certainly an experience, and a bizarre experience. They do all this silly filter stuff. It's very of its time. It's actually decent at being a stream of consciousness, surreal psychedelic movie. And there are a lot of bad ones. And this one has a certain character and a charm to it. And that the Monkees are kind of like, hey, fuck you, guys, alright? We want to do what we want to do. We're going to do this weird movie, whether it destroys us or not. They like kind of conned this film studio into giving them the money to make Head. Is just like, there's certain a punk rock element to it, even though this is pre-punk, I guess. This is like the weird art house movie that everyone used to be like, I don't know about going to the art house. Those movies are weird. So if you have seen Head and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments. And if you want to talk about Davy Jones, subscribe to the Rough Cuts if you haven't already. Subscribe to my main channel in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. And go to Earl Barrett Holloway's Kickstarter. He is making a comic book, and he needs money to do so. So his new comic, The Squid. So go to Kickstarter. The link is in the info box below, and check it out. And I made the video for the Kickstarter as well. So if that's any incentive, I guess. I don't know. Which, by the way, there is a rumor that they thought this movie, because the Monkees were so big, would obviously have a sequel. And they thought in the trailer for the sequel, the joke would be from the people who gave you Head, which I think is really funny. Hey, it's Jim. So I saw 9, which is this new animated movie produced by Tim Burton. It's about these dolls who like got the souls of this inventor, and they're like going around. I don't know. I think it was just kind of okay. There's all these action sequences, but there's no character development. It seemed like the character development almost didn't matter to this director. He was more interested in having cool action sequences, which is nice and can work, but I didn't feel like it really worked in this. I felt like this is just kind of like okay. I mean, you know, I know it's like an animated movie for teens, but for some reason, every time that happens, we usually get like not such a great movie. I mean, you know, if you look at Black Cauldron or something, I mean, I guess this is along those lines, but I didn't really feel like they developed anybody, you know. I mean, I kind of like that you have this post-apocalyptic world and it's in a city rather than usually it's just like a desert somewhere like in the Mad Max films. But I mean, come on, aren't we all beyond Thunderdome? I think the character design really didn't work. I understand the short had that character design, but I just didn't find it that interesting and intriguing. I felt like the art of it should have been like a lot better. And I understand it's like this dystopian place where they live and shit, but like this needs to be like an interesting movie to watch, and none of the shots are particularly interesting. They're just kind of standard mediums, and it's just like kind of like, oh, this is how you would shoot. This is how you're supposed to shoot this scene. And the voice acting was alright. I mean, it's kind of like, nobody really got into their character. The only one I thought was well cast and interesting was Crispin Glover. Everybody else was kind of like, just, it's Elijah Wood was alright. It's like I wasn't into it. It was like I could never get into any of the characters because suddenly they're here and we're going on with the plot. Like, we never got to meet anybody. Nothing was really well established. It was just, you could almost, like, half the time you're watching this be on your computer and doing something else, and you probably could follow it, because most of the dialogue was exposition. It was like exposition, oh, well, exposition. I mean, that was the movie. I mean, it's alright, but I really don't think I can recommend it at all. And so basically, it was okay. If you've seen this film, then write me a comment in the comments below and tell me what you thought. And subscribe if you would like. That's about it. Oh, and I have to give a shout out to my boy Chuck, because he asked me to do that. So, if you ask me, you get a shout out, and he did, so he gets one. So, anyway, yeah, there you go. Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for the Rough Cuts, and today I'm going to talk about the film Crimewave. It's a movie that I have wanted to see for a while but knew really nothing about. The only reason I heard of it is through looking at filmographies of various directors, and I looked at Sam Raimi's a long time ago and I noticed this film Crimewave, and he directed it between the first Evil Dead and the second Evil Dead. It's the only film he directed in between. I really didn't know anything about it other than it was written by Sam Raimi and the Coen brothers. And I knew that they were friendly, but I never knew that they worked on a film together. I was kind of curious to see like what a Sam Raimi directed Coen brothers script would be, and like why this was not very available at all, and how come I had never really heard of it. It's about this guy who is on his way to death row. Like, they're gonna put him in the electric chair, and he's telling him the story about how he's innocent and shouldn't be put in the electric chair. This very convoluted plot about how he was just putting in security systems and these other guys were like doing this scam and killing these people, and he's like at the wrong place, the wrong time. I mean, it's very Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes cartoon, Three Stooges kind of a film. Too much of a weird Tex Avery type thing going on. There's some visuals in this, like one where this lady keeps going through doors that have different colors, or she's being chased by one of these guys. Is like, that was really amazing. The two villains, who are these two exterminator guys, I mean, I didn't really like them, and their voices sounded dubbed. There's a lot of really bad 80s ADR in this. The two villains are alright. I mean, as characters, it's just I didn't really like their voices. They felt really fake and two-dimensional to me. Whereas and that's not because of like the kind of cartoony style or anything, because I think the lead guy, he's a pretty good Bugs Bunny surrogate in some places. In other places, I wonder, like, why are we having this guy be the lead in this movie? Reed Byrony, the physicality he's bringing to it, I thought really complements the style of this movie, because he's so, like, he's skinny and strong. He reminds me of, like, a Daffy Duck. I don't really feel like he has the charisma almost to pull off the lead in this movie. I mean, I wish Bruce Campbell, who, if you look this movie up, is always listed first, he's, like, not really in it that much, and I feel like this is something Bruce Campbell could have pulled off. I don't know why he wasn't the lead. Last week I did Over the Edge, and Over the Edge was a cult movie that I had always wanted to see, knew very little about, and then when I actually saw it, I really liked it. But Crimewave is the other extreme of what usually happens. This movie is an interesting experiment. It reminds me of Spielberg and Spielberg's film 1942. 1942 is a lot better, but this is kind of an interesting little misstep. You're kind of wondering why Sam Raimi isn't doing another horror movie in the mid-80s. He kind of doesn't make Evil Dead 2 until 87, which I didn't realize it was that late, but I guess it is. It's a weird idea for a movie. It doesn't seem commercial at all, even though this is his first film with a studio, and they had all these problems in the studio. Like, they didn't have full creative control, and the studio was second guessing them all the way through. Apparently it was a really horrible experience, but they knew, like, there could never be an experience as bad as Crimewave, so they could all get through it. And that's how, I think it helped Sam Raimi. I think it definitely helped his visual style. You can look at kind of stuff that happened in the Spider-Man films and trace it to this movie. And that's great that he later used stuff you learned from this film in better films, but Crimewave is the kind of film you should only watch if you're like a completist. You want to see every Sam Raimi movie ever. It's an interesting little cool find. It's the Coen brothers right around the time they wrote and made Raising Arizona. You know, it's really quirky and weird and strange and kind of a little too over the top in that kind of 80s goofy way. A lot of the kind of the goofiness and the oddness and the bizarre camera angles and stuff worked out a lot better in something like Raising Arizona. This is like the other extreme of that kind of a dark black comedy. It's a really odd little weird obscure movie, you know, and it is strange, you know, someone like Sam Raimi and the Coen brothers, you'd think most people had heard of it, but I guess not, you know. But Bruce Campbell's in it. He has a small part, unfortunately. I really thought he was the star of this originally, because he's always listed first, but he's not. That's really disappointing to me. In some places it's called the XYZ Murders. It was a huge flop. It made like $5,000 according to Box Office Mojo. Played in like 7 theaters, maybe 12 theaters total. I think it taught Sam Raimi a lot of lessons, apparently, from what I read, or at least on the Wikipedia page. It seems to have, and I think we're all the better for it having being made. I understand why no one really wants to release this thing anymore. No one's really that into it. Why I never heard of it. You know, how come there's not a special edition Blu-ray or something? It's just kind of a little too goofy and weird for its own good. Alright, so if you have seen Crimewave and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments. Subscribe to the Rough Cuts if you haven't already, because maybe somebody else will post, who knows. And subscribe to my main channel, which is in the info box below, where I do multiple, even more videos than I do here, actually. And follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. And follow Earl Barrett Holloway's Tumblr, who does the picture at the beginning and the end of this video. And that's it. And I will be back next week. I'm surprised I got this up, really. But I did, so there. Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for the Rough Cuts, and today I'm reviewing the film The Sweatbox, a documentary about the making of the film The Emperor's New Groove, and how it was originally called Kingdom of the Sun, and actually had a completely different director, and was in production for forever, and had all these turnarounds, and like the story completely changed, and took like 2 or 3 years to make, and it was like a long, arduous process, and it was all captured in this documentary because Sting was doing the music for it, and he signed in his deal that his wife could make this documentary about the production of Emperor's New Groove. This film's really rare. I actually never got to see it until this week, and someone posted it on YouTube. It has since been taken down, unfortunately, but it's really, I mean, if you have any interest in animation, or you are an animator, this is a great film to watch. As the film started, you have Kingdom of the Sun, which is going to be directed by Roger Allers. He was the co-director of The Lion King, and he had been the head of story on Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. So he was a big guy at Disney at the time, and you'd think they'd give him some respect and let him like flesh out his vision, which is something that Pixar did, you know, is that if Andrew Stanton or Brad Bird or Pete Docter wanted to make like a certain weirder movie, they'd let them do it, and they'd give them the cachet. And you know, at this time, Disney, I mean, this is like kind of the falling of the Disney empire. Pixar had already started, DreamWorks was starting, you know, they weren't the top dogs in town anymore, and I think they didn't really know what to do, because you'd think you would hold on to a director. The executives seemed kind of stupid to me. I mean, they both kind of looked alike, which was creepy enough. One guy had a mustache and glasses, and the other guy didn't, but they looked similar that for a little bit I thought, are they like the same person? They look almost related. That was creepy. And one of them just didn't seem to know, the guy without the mustache didn't seem to really know anything about story. It felt like he was just complaining for the sake of complaining in certain places. Like, they're later on in the process of the film, and I think he says something about like, well, why would it be more interesting if he had this family? And this other executive argues with him, and you're looking at him like, of course, like, you want him to see his family at the certain points. It's a kid's movie, and you're looking at him like, it doesn't, I don't think they really understood story. I didn't feel like he really knew what he was talking about. You know, this is kind of an interesting look inside a big corporate feature animation studio, and just like kind of the crap that goes on. It is kind of interesting to watch this movie now. John Carter just flopped. they let Andrew Stanton do whatever he wanted on that film. And for the most part, animation directors now get a lot more respect than they do then. Like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Mission Impossible were both directed by directors who started out as animators. I don't think Roger Allers had the same kind of career path. No one was really looking out for him the way Pixar looked out for their directors. And he didn't end up directing another feature animated film in theaters until like open season, which is kind of depressing, I think. He looked like he really got burned on this. I like The Emperor's New Groove. I like that movie. I think it's cool. It has more of a Warner Brothers approach to it. I kind of like that there aren't too many songs in it. I think it kind of worked out in the end, and I feel like maybe I would not have liked Kingdom of the Sun. So I don't really agree with studio tangling and being super involved. I don't really think it works. But I think in this case, did it work out for the better for the film? Maybe, but I think, you know, you kind of like steamrolled this very talented director. I mean, he just made The Lion King. I mean, it's still one of the highest grossing animated films of all time. And if like you made The Lion King now, I feel like Kingdom of the Sun would have been made the way he wanted it to be made. But because it was, you know, the late 90s, I guess nobody really cared. They completely changed this movie. It was a big epic. Owen Wilson was involved. He recorded voices for this, and that never ended up in the film. Most of Sting's music that he wrote for this movie, for Kingdom of the Sun, just wound up on the soundtrack to Emperor's New Groove, but did not wind up in the actual movie to Emperor's New Groove. And maybe with John Carter, it's like they let the opposite happen, and I think that didn't really work at all. Whereas, you know, Emperor's New Groove, I think, is a pretty decent movie. This film does kind of have a message like, as hard as it is, maybe sometimes this process actually works for the film and it comes out and you have great material. But I don't know if I really agree with just kind of like, you know, you have this director who like really helped your company and gave your company this huge hit. Maybe switching the director and having Mark Dindal do it. He had just done Cats Don't Dance, and he wasn't really a Disney director, but I thought that kind of loosened it up, and I like The Emperor's New Groove for its style and how it's kind of a different Disney movie. So it's like I'm kind of conflicted with this film because I don't really agree with what they did to Roger Allers in this film. I think that was really a shitty thing to do. You see how frustrating some of these major studio kind of corporate funded movies are, because they go through like long stages of development and story meetings and test audiences and executives and all this stuff, and it shows you how frustrating the creative process really can be. So I really recommend it if you're interested in the making of movies or anything, if you can find it, which is really hard. I don't think I'll ever see it again. Apparently I saw a longer cut that isn't the same as the cut that people saw. Like, it played in a few film festivals, it played at a theater in LA for like a week. It just hasn't been widely seen. So if you can ever see the Sweatbox, I really recommend it. I think it's a really interesting movie. I don't think Disney will ever let it out, but it would make a hell of a good DVD release with Emperor's New Groove in this, because now I want to watch Emperor's New Groove again. So if you have seen the Sweatbox and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments. Subscribe to the Rough Cuts if you haven't already. Subscribe to my main channel, which is in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. And follow Earl Barrett Holloway's Tumblr, who does the picture at the beginning and the end of this video.
Hey, it's Jim, and I just got back from seeing the new film, Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, which stars Nicolas Cage and is directed by Werner Herzog. Now, this isn't a sequel to Bad Lieutenant, except for that in the original he's drug addicted, and in this he's drug addicted. Other than that, there's really no similarities at all. Werner Herzog, who directed this, had just never seen Bad Lieutenant. It just has the title on there. That's it. It's not a remake or a reimagining or anything. It just shares a title with the original Bad Lieutenant. Who knew? When you look at the cast list, it's Nicolas Cage, Val Kilmer, Fairuza Balk, and Exhibit, which is probably like the greatest rap party ever. And Herzog. Can't believe I left out Herzog. We're just watching it and you're like, what? It's like, whoa, like, this is a movie for people who like to watch a lot of weird shit, because it's really good at being like a weird movie. There's this part with an iguana, like you're from the perspective of an iguana, and there's a part where you're from the perspective of a crocodile. Why? Who knows? And there's tons of scenes that you're like, what? what was that doing there? So there's other parts that work really well. It's structured great, but sometimes laughably. I think Nicolas Cage in this role is a lot like, there's certain roles that like don't ever get nominated for anything, even though they're really cool, like Faye Dunaway in Mommy Dearest or Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski. And this has a little bit of both of those things in it, but it's its own shit. Like, Nicolas Cage, I think, was possessed by the devil for a large part of this. I've heard people compare Faye Dunaway in Mommy Dearest to Kabuki Theater, and like, I think Nicolas Cage in this movie is close to that. It's just so over the top, and you're like, yeah, but there's a lot of skill that went into all that over the topness. You know, it doesn't look like it was easy. I really felt like he did a really great job just being completely out there. If you like Evil Dead 2, if you're a fan of like World's Greatest Sinner, probably John Waters, or just like kind of cool, fun crime drama, just like B stuff, I think you'd like this. This is like a very interesting film. Or if you have a bunch of friends over to watch a movie, this is a good one, just because it's like fun to laugh at with other people. At the end, you're like, yeah, that was good. Like, you're kind of like, it's so kind of out there and bizarre, and there's so much stuff going on. Like, I kind of feel like Herzog had a lot of fun with this, and everybody involved was like, yeah, let's do this. You know, not many movie stars have the balls to do something like this. This is like out there. Like, he's like, he'll come into people's houses and like steal the drugs, like, and use them. There's not many drug films like this anymore. This is the attitude that 70s films used to have about drugs. Now we're a little more like, you know, like Harold and Kumar only do drugs once in the movie, and that's like a drug movie now, you know. Back in the 70s, you look at Cheech and Chong, it was just all throughout. In this movie, it's all throughout, you know. Definitely one of the better films of the year, you know. Just for the fun and the ridiculousness of it. It's just like, what? Oh, man. If you've seen Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, I think I got it all. Alright, if you've seen that or would like to talk about that or anything to do with this film, comment below down there. And subscribe if you would like to. That's about it. And, yeah. Lieutenant. Shit.
So that was it. That's it. No more Old Review Omnibus. It's been cool. I'm very happy with this series. I'm sorry I take long breaks before posting them. They never seem to be anybody's like favorite thing, but you know, whatever. I guess they are sort of filler things, but it was sort of a dream of mine to get these sort of back, and I didn't want to release them as individual things. I thought this was a good compromise, and I know there's people who would actually like to see some of these things, and I am proud of some of these. You know, I did watch each of them. I didn't just shoot these things and go like, I don't know, fuck it, and put them out. Like, I really did like make sure I really wanted to release them, and I didn't want these to kind of reflect how I work now, so that's why I put another reason I put them in these packages. But it's been cool. Make sure to save all your work, because then you can be a YouTube person and re-put out your stuff and make it an upload or whatever. But I think that's kind of cool to do that sometimes. So that's why it took like 3 years to finish the series. Not really 3 years, but sort of. Well, I mean, I have a 2-year-old, and when I started this, I didn't. So I guess that says something. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this series. There'll be more older stuff. There's been stuff I shot over a year ago that I haven't edited yet. So there'll still be kind of older reviews or older footage that'll come back to haunt you, but it'll not be like in this kind of capacity any longer. So thank you anyone who watched these. Thank you anyone who watched all of these. If you are, please comment below in the comments and got to this point in the video and watched this part also. I think you should comment and say, hey, I did it, Jim, it was me. But anyway, thank you all very much. Thank you all very much who supports and watches any of this stuff, or watched this stuff when it originally came out and now being re-released. Some of these things have not been seen in like seriously like 8 or 9 years, 5, yeah, around then, a long time. So it's kind of cool to bring at least Bad Lieutenant and 9 back and reintroduce Breakin, Crimewave, Head, and Sweatbox, but also all these things and all these videos throughout doing this series has been really cool, and I appreciate everyone who watched it, especially just like, you know, kind of re-seeing it. I hope it's been entertaining and not just like me kind of bringing all these things back home. So comment below in the comments if you'd like to talk about this series, the Old Review Omnibus series, or any of these older reviews. 9, Bad Lieutenant, Breakin, Crimewave, Head, Sweatbox, how I looked, what my old bed looked like in the head video, all the stupid crap I used to put in these things, how hopefully I've gotten better, or maybe I'm worse. I don't know. Comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to.